Good evening to you all, those of you who are joining at home and those of you who have joined here. I am delighted to speak on this subject, how to have a high energy life. And I'll start by saying that it's not everyone who wants to live a high energy life, because having high energy, living with high energy, comes with a lot of side effects. It comes with having a lot of responsibility. It comes with attracting opportunities that require not only high energy, but even high energy, higher and more energy. Living a high energy life attracts to you people who have high energy and possibly higher energy than you do. And it stimulates you and encourages you to raise your energy even higher. Most people are satisfied living a low energy life, going to work, giving to their work the least amount of energy that they can get by with in order to take home their salary, and not giving anything to their work. They get home, they don't give much to their family, to their friends. Once we go in that direction of living at a low level of energy, it permeates our whole life. There are other people who are content to lead a mediocre life. Just sometimes good, sometimes a little better or not so much, but just reaching a level of mediocrity, not having the courage to go beyond, the medium, beyond the average, to stand out, to shine, to realize the potentials that we have been given by the infinite spirit. So the first point about living a high energy life is to want to live a high energy life. To recognize that high energy brings enormous rewards. High energy means success. High energy means creative flow. With high energy comes good health, comes strength, comes fortitude. With high energy comes loving, sharing relationships. So if you who are watching would like to have a high energy life, a life that has more energy, that brings you more joy and success, then I have a few suggestions to offer to you. One of them is on the mental level. As Adityaji was just saying, that when he opened up his mind with a certain affirmative thought, he found that the energy he was looking for was there already instantaneously. So, a secret for living a high energy life is this: don't resist anything that life asks you to do. If it's a family outing or a dinner, if it's a new work area, a new job, if it's whatever it is, if it's being more of something, don't resist what is being asked, because the thought of resistance, oh, should I not, that's the doubting thought, or resisting, no, maybe I shouldn't do it, I don't want to do it, why do I have to do it? All thoughts, any thought that resists an energy that has come into your life and wants to take you, when we resist it, we don't have the energy. So this is one secret to living a high energy life. Whatever comes of itself, accept it, welcome it, open your heart, open your arms, and say yes to life. Say, yes, I will. Be enthusiastic to accept and enter into every flow, every gift that God gives you. And now the second aspect of living a high energy life is nourishing our energy level throughout the day. How many times a day do we eat? Most people are eating 2 or 3 times a day. Sometimes, according to Ayurveda and also the suggestions of Yogananda, to eat smaller meals and more often, because by eating, the body gains energy and we need to feed that regularly. If you have an old model cell phone and its battery isn't very good anymore, how often during the day might you need to recharge that? Sometimes your cell phone gets to the place where you might need to recharge it 2, 3, even more times during the day. Because unless you have a full battery, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do with that instrument. So our lives, our energy reserves are exactly like that. They need to be replenished. And not just once a day at the beginning, but often during the day. When we replenish our energy reserves in the morning, and those of us who are familiar with the techniques of self-realization, we do this through the energy recharging exercises. We meditate, raise our consciousness to a higher level, open ourselves to a flow of cosmic energy, and then we go off into our day, into our day's responsibility and activities. Now, if we try to live on that single charge of energy throughout the day, we discover that when we get home in the evening, that energy reserve has been depleted. Because what we do, the way that we do it during the day, the demands that are placed on us, the environment, the pollution, the noise, the chaos, everything in our daily life is draining energy from our reserves. It's requiring energy. Our work requires energy. Our relationships need to be nourished. We have problems that come during the day that need to be solved. And every one of these things requires an output of energy. So throughout the day, we need to input energy and not wait until we get home. Because if we do, we get home exhausted. It takes a long time to charge some batteries. It might take until the next day, after we have our 6 or 7 or 8 hours of sleep, to get recharged again. So we come home, we have our family, our children, our friends, things we would like to do in the evening. We don't have the energy. So the suggestion that I have is regularly throughout the day, even every hour, take that 1 minute to recharge and replenish our energy reserves. And there are some very quick ways of doing it. One very quick way is through the simple practice of double breathing, tensing the body, and double exhalation. By tensing the body, we open up the channel for energy, the input, the entryway of energy, which is at the base of the brain, the medulla oblongata. So we do the double breath, and then slowly, with control, we tense the muscles, including our back and spine and face. We joyfully vibrate as hard and as long as we can. And then with a double exhalation, we slowly relax the body. And if we do that 2 or 3 or 6 times, it only takes 30 seconds. But in those 30 seconds, we are opening ourselves to the inflow of a higher, unlimited, cosmic energy. So let's try that right now. It's evening time. Perhaps you have had a tiring, exhausting day. Just sitting where you are. Sit up nice and straight. Close your eyes. And through the nose, do a double breath, short and long. Inhale. Slowly tense all of the body muscles, slowly, more and more until everything is vibrating. Exhale. Slowly, slowly exhale. Relax, relax, relax. Let's do this once again. Double breath. From the feet up to the head and the face. And exhale. Slowly relax and feel. One more time. Double breath. Inhale. Tense. Vibrate with joy. Smile. And exhale. Slowly, slowly. Exhale, exhale, exhale. And feel. Just feel in all parts of your body, your muscles, your nerves, everywhere in the body. Try to feel the fresh energy tingling and nourishing every cell in your body and your brain. Now, open your eyes again. This is a very quick way. Is it worth it? 30 seconds every hour? Will you remember to do it? Probably not. So why don't you give yourself a reminder? You know, take your watch or whatever it is, your cell phone, and set it to beep, beep every hour, a repetitive notification. And when you hear that beep, beep, just close your eyes, take 30 seconds to replenish yourself from the infinite, unlimited, cosmic source of energy. What else can we do to replenish our energy reserves? Well, if you know the 20-part body recharging, and you have a little more than 30 seconds, perhaps you have a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So perhaps 3 times during the day, wherever you are. You could be sitting down, you could be on the metro, on a bus, in a taxi, in a conference. Wherever you are, go through the process of tensing and relaxing the different parts of the body. And when you go through the entire process, it will take you only a couple minutes. And at the end, you will feel ready to meet the next challenge. Don't let your energy reserves fall below the highest. So throughout the day, think about yourself in terms of your energy charge, your energy level. Say to yourself, in this moment, where is my energy? Is it at a level of 3 out of 10? 6? 8? 2? And if you find that your energy is lower than the maximum, and have the courage to fill yourself up to the maximum, just like we do in charging the phone. You charge it all the way. And when you find that the energy has dropped to 9 or 8 or 7, as soon as you realize that, double breath, tense, and relax. Now, another way to quickly fill yourself with energy is to use an affirmation and combine it with a movement, if you have the opportunity. Even if you can't do it where you are, perhaps take a break, go outside on the balcony. If there's nowhere to go, go to the bathroom and close the door. And affirm one of Swami Kriyananda's superconscious affirmations, I am awake and ready. And affirming this overcomes the resistance, overcomes the tiredness, and opens us up to that flow of energy. It starts here. This is the switch. And if you can combine that affirmation with a movement, like we do in our superconscious living exercises, where we walk, just a very simple walk, doesn't have to be fast, but it does have to be conscious, determined, and combine it either out loud or if you can't do it out loud because of where you are, do it mentally, even for 30 seconds. I am awake and ready. I am awake and ready. I am awake and ready. Let's see if that works right now. So wherever you are, please stand. Also the audience here. And just imagine that it's sometime during the day when your energy is flagging, which could be right now at 7 o'clock in the evening. And you're going to try this exercise. So let's remember the affirmation, I am awake and ready. We want to give every single word power. Yogananda says that our words can be like bullets, or they could have no energy at all. It depends on what we give to it. So every word having power. And just for a few seconds, standing up nice and straight, let's do this practice. I am awake and ready. 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 Now close your eyes a moment and just evaluate. Just feel. Do you feel different in this moment than you did a moment ago? Has something changed? Now open your eyes again and please sit down. From this experience, you can see that it doesn't take much to feed our energy reserves. It just takes the intention of doing it and the courage to live a high energy, high powered, highly joyful life. If we want to do it, we have the means and the tools to do it, and we will do it. So make an experiment tomorrow. When you're at work, wherever you are, whether it's in your own home, whether you're with people in a public situation or working in an office, find those moments to do any one of these exercises, or many of them. Do them often during the day and see how you feel during the day. If you're brighter, more effective, more efficient, more magnetic, and if after your day's service is done, you can come home still with full energy and have it to share with your family and friends. So these are just a couple ideas and suggestions and secrets that I have found works for me and for other people. So now I'm very glad to entertain questions that you might have, and I hope that I'll be able to give you some insights and answers. So what's our first question?
So the first question is, when you are faced with a set of difficult circumstances or unpleasant people, or you're grappling with a problem, is that a high energy situation or is that a low energy situation?
All right. So when life challenges us, it means that it's an opportunity to raise our energy. That's what it's saying to us. It's saying, here's your chance to get a higher energy in order to deal with this particular situation. Now, every situation that comes to us has an energy charge. Every karma that comes to us from our past life has a certain charge of energy. And sometimes we're with people who are difficult, and they might be unpleasant or negative or insulting, and their energy field might be at a 6 or a 7, and you can feel it. And in order to deal with that, life is saying, lift up your energy. Get higher. Get above it. our karma is going to come to us, and it's going to come to us through people, through situations. And every time it comes to us, it has an energetic charge. So if we can keep our energy high, and when these situations come, we just say, a reminder that I can have even higher energy, and then we get higher. So let's take those situations as being opportunities to live and live a life with even higher energy.
So the next one is, what does it mean to bring more energy into a relationship?
Okay, the question is, what does it mean to bring more energy into a relationship? The relationships that are closest to us, the ones that we have at home, the ones that we have with colleagues, people with whom we work, people who are always in our life, we tend to take them for granted. Okay? We tend to assume certain things and assume they're going to be in a certain way. And we tend to have certain expectations, and also to put these people in a way in a psychological box. Oh, this person is always like this, or always acts in a certain way, or is never able to do this or that. And when we do that, the energy in that relationship becomes stagnant, or it gets very low, or it turns negative. Now, just like nourishing our energy reserves, we need to nourish the exchange of love, of respect, of appreciation in every one of our relationships, never taking them for granted, and coming to each relationship that we have every time, every day, as a new day and a new chance to affirm the beauty and the importance that relationship has in our life. Our relationships, the ones that are always in our life, tend to settle, they go down, down, down in energy, because we're not feeding them with appreciation, with respect, with creativity. Relationships need to be nourished. And if we're starving them of our attention, of our creativity, and of our love, they're not going to be positive. So I think that's what it means to put energy into our relationships. Feed them every day with the qualities that make relationships joyful.
Thank you. And how do we deal with people or situations who act as energy vampires? So at times we just can't avoid such people, but they lower our energy nonetheless. So how do we?
Okay, so sometimes we talk about people, or not even talk about them, we know people in our lives who take our energy. They drain us, and so we say they're like vampires. And what can we do when we're with people who are draining, taking energy from us? Well, I would say the first thing is not to label them as being vampires, okay? And to realize that every person is a unique expression of the infinite spirit, and every person in every moment of their lives has certain needs. When we're with these people, if we are giving love, then we're not going to be drained. If we're passive, if we're fearful, if we're thinking, oh, this person's going to take my energy. Okay? But energy is infinite, and we know how to replenish it. So it's back to the first secret that I talked about. Don't resist. Okay? Don't resist the people who need our energy. Open your heart silently. Bless them. Try to see their higher aspects. Ask God, the infinite source of energy, to inspire you as to what you can say in that moment, at that time, that will give that person what they need. Don't, on the other hand, be just dragged in to very long interactions with people who are there just to take. So give. The answer to having high energy is to give. And when that's the focus, then people will not be draining us. And our next question?
Okay. So similarly, fear drains a lot of energy. How can I deal with fear?
Okay. So how can we deal with fear? When we're afraid of something, we become oftentimes catatonic. We can't move. We're kind of like frozen. How can we deal with fear? At its heart, fear is a lack of faith. Fear is the false notion that we are not being protected, that there are enemies, that life is out to get us. And in order to combat fear, what we want to affirm is that God's presence is always with us, that He is looking after us and taking care of us. And when we call upon His presence and His protection, it is instantly there. I'm thinking of the story from Mahabharata of Draupadi, when she's being, when Dushasana is trying to disrobe her. And what is she doing at that time? Is she fearful? She's not. She's there praying to Krishna, because Krishna is her friend. Krishna is her guru, and she knows that her guru is responsible for protecting her. Now she, by herself, can't figure out what's going to happen after 6 meters of sari are finished, but she knows that Krishna has a plan. And so she calls on that infinite. She has the faith and knows that He's not going to let her be humiliated. So when we find that we are in a situation where we are fearful, let's remember that in that moment, God is there. He's waiting. He's willing. He's waiting for our call. And let that be our first response to fear, is having the faith, calling on God, calling on our guru, and letting them do their work in helping us and in protecting us.
Okay. When I have a high flow of energy, my work efficiency increases, and so my need for sleep decreases. So it seems like 2 to 4 hours of sleep are sufficient in that phase. What is the right approach to sleep during a period like that of high energy? And
Wait, let's take it one at a time. So the question is that during periods of high energy, I'm very efficient, things are flowing, and I don't need much sleep at that time. It seems that maybe 2 to 4 hours is sufficient. What is the right approach to sleep at that time? So there are moments when we are in the flow of a high energy, and we don't need to depend on physical sources of energy. I'm thinking of a time when Master was working on a project and had his disciples with him, and they worked throughout, I think, 2 days and nights without sleeping and hardly eating. But they were in his flow of high energy, and they felt neither sleepy nor hungry. So when we are in that flow, let's take it as being a grace, flow with it, but then don't exaggerate, because that flow will ebb. there's an ebb and flood in everything. And when we feel that that period is over, then we go back to the sleep that's needed, that's normally needed by us. So we need to be flexible. And again, don't resist, but don't force. Don't think that just because in a period of time you're able to go with little food and little sleep, that that's how it's going to be throughout your life. It won't be, because there are cycles. So recognize the cycles, flow with the cycle, and when it's finished, it's finished.
And the second part was, how can I sustain that high level of energy or motivation when I touch that?
Okay, so how can I sustain a high level of energy? Well, I talked about this, about regularly nourishing and replenishing the reserves. And we do this through the few exercises that we went through at the beginning of this class, but also by deep meditation. Because when we are very deep in inner stillness, in inner peace, we are completely open to a much higher level of awareness and energy. More than we need sleep, we need deep meditation. So in these periods of high energy and inspiration, don't neglect meditation, because that's where we can find more and higher and a better quality of energy, and how we're able to sustain that.
When I live with high energy, it seems like more troubles come to me. Is that right?
It seems that when I live with high energy, more troubles come to me. Well, an energy flow has a magnetism, and a magnetism means attraction. So the energy that we put out, according to the quality of that energy, is going to attract to us that same quality of energy. So if the energy that we're putting out is frenetic and stressful, we're going to attract to ourselves situations that require, that occasion us to have even more stress and chaos. But if the energy we're putting out is calm and centered and balanced, and we're not being overwhelmed by that flow of energy, but we're in control of it, that we have the self-restraint to direct and to govern our energy, then the energy that will come back to us will be in kind. So I think what's important is that in our energy flow, that we are consciously in control of the way in which we direct that energy and the quality of the energy at that time.
What do I do if I come up on a block like doubt in my intention to live a high energy life?
Okay. So the question is about doubt. What will we do? What can we do when we come up against doubt? How can we overcome doubt? I was in a satsang one time up in Dehradun with a woman saint who is in the direct line of Kriya from Lahiri Mahashaya. And it came the part of the satsang when we could ask questions. And the people, the pilgrims that I was with at that time, of course, they were timid and they really didn't know what to ask. And so I thought, well, I'll get the ball rolling and I'll just ask a generic question. So I said, Mataji, what do you consider to be the biggest obstacle to spiritual progress? And she immediately, almost before I finished asking my question, she said, doubt. Doubt is the biggest obstacle. Now, doubt is a mental construct. It never, or almost never, has a basis in reality. It's just the mind hypothesizing situations or possibilities that probably won't happen. So when we are overcome by doubt, the result of that is that we're frozen. We are unable to make a decision. We're unable to take action. Doubt blocks us from acting. So when we are in that situation, my suggestion would be to take any possible small action. Just make an attempt in a positive direction. Get ourselves moving. And once we're moving, the energy flow will take us and will help us overcome that doubt by having a positive experience. Doubt is very much like fear. It's a worry about the future. So let's live in the present moment. Let's do what we need to do. And if we don't know what the right thing is, if we don't know what the best thing is to do in our life in any given moment, do anything. Swami Kriyananda says it's usually better to make a decision that might be wrong than to be overcome by indecision. Because indecision just brings more and more doubts. Whereas when we make a decision and take a direction, as we move, the energy is flowing, and then we see what's right, what's wrong, and what's best. It's just like a car. If you need to move a car because it's blocking somebody's entryway, and the car's not started, it might take 2 or 3 or 4 people to get the car moving. But if somebody goes in and starts the car, once the motor's running, then you can move the car in any direction. It's easy. So when we're assailed by doubt, we need to start the motor. And once we do, life will take us and show us the right directions.
Okay. Could you share an experience of when you first came on the spiritual path, which taught you how to raise your energy?
So they're asking for a personal experience that taught me how to raise my energy. At the moment, I'm so much here right now in this present moment that, that's 50 years ago when I came on the spiritual path. And going back all that time would take some thinking. So at the moment, I'm not able to. I'm sure it happened, and that it was probably a defining moment, and that it stayed with me ever since. So as the evening goes on, if something comes to mind, I'll be happy to share it with you.
So, on a related, is there a story of Swami Kriyananda which comes to mind with regards to an example of living a high energy life?
So is there an example from the life of Swami Kriyananda of living a high energy life? Well, whereas I couldn't think of any experience from my own life, I can think immediately of about 100 examples in the life of Swami Kriyananda. In his later years, his body was not well. It wasn't as strong as it had been before. And often it was quite weak. And it was astonishing for us to see. I remember even one time that he came to the temple and he was being taken there in a wheelchair. He got to the door of the temple. He stood up. He walked up to the altar, stood there, and gave a 1-hour talk. And then he sat down. He was finished. That was the end of the flow, and they brought the wheelchair and took him out. He knew how to not identify with his physical body and to call on a higher energy. Other times when I've seen Swami just raise up, well, it's hard because Swami's energy was always high. And in that high energy, he was always creative and in a divine flow. And I never saw him be blocked. So again, when other things come to mind, I'll be happy to share them with you. I can give many examples of how his energy was always high. We were on tour with him. It was back, I think, in probably 1976. It was after the fire had destroyed much of Ananda. And his response to that situation, which in itself was like a situation where the community, the beautiful trees and forest had been burnt down, where the homes had been destroyed. And of course, people's energy and morale were sagging, were very low. And his response to that situation was, let's go out and share what we have. Let's share our teachings. Let's share our joy. Let's share our faith in God. And we went on a 3-month tour. I think we traveled over 8,000 miles. We were with 14 people, 3 vehicles, constantly putting out energy. And what that did for the whole community was it raised the magnetism of the community up so high that we were able to rebuild the community, to build it better, and to expand it.
So in the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. What is the right use of my will?
So what is the right use of our will? Yogananda has the aphorism, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The right use of our will, Yogananda says, is to attune it to divine will. By our own free will, we can accomplish a lot, but we can also make many mistakes. Willfully, stubbornly going in wrong directions and making bad decisions. Okay? There's a lot of temptations in life, and we can use our will to play with fire, to get into the leela of it. It's coming to mind right now another scene from Mahabharata, which is the famous gambling scene, where Yudhishthira is there in the arena playing dice with the crooked uncle Shakuni. And Yudhishthira is known as the most righteous person on the face of the earth. He was the son of Dharma, of righteousness. So everything about him was correct. And yet he gambled. And when he gambled with Maya, he lost. Okay. So when we use our will to test out the strength of Maya, of delusion, just go a little bit into temptations, to play with it. Always remember Yudhishthira, and he lost. He lost everything. So that's not the way we want to use our willpower. We want to attune ourselves to what God wants for us. What is God's will for us? We often think, I'm so confused. I don't know what God's will is. He doesn't talk to me. But it's really very simple. God's will is that we come closer to Him, that we grow, that we expand, that we become more loving, more inclusive, that we see Him in others and in all of nature. That's His will for us. So when something comes to mind that we would like to do, a decision we would like to take, a direction in our lives, before we forge ahead and say, all I need is willpower and the energy's going to flow, before we jump into it, we want to sit very quietly, get into a higher state, get into super conscious level of our mind, and ask God, hold up that which we will to do, and ask God, does He agree? Is it His will? Does He approve? Does He give us His blessing? And when He does, we know it, we feel it, and when He doesn't, especially, we know it. Because when what we want to do is not in tune with God's will for our progress, we feel doubtful. We feel restless. We feel nervous. Okay? We don't feel calm. So all of these are signs that what we are wanting and willing to do might not be what's best for us. So always check in. And when you feel that it is a good direction for you, continue to check in. Don't presume on your inner guidance as being from here to eternity, because your inner guidance may take you so far in one direction in order to go in another direction. So let's always check in. Always ask for God's guidance and for His blessing on everything that we do.
Does anybody here want to ask a question?
Are there any questions from our live audience? But I know our audience at home is alive, and I hope awake still. Are there any more questions?
We have a couple more here.
Should we continue?
Wait, first let's see. Any questions here? No? All right. I can take at least one,
Okay.
maybe two questions.
Okay. So I'm in a situation right now where I'm having to face people who are not inclusive or encouraging. How do I keep my energy high around those kind of people?
So the question is, I'm in a situation where people are not including me. So they're excluding me. How can I keep my energy high in this situation? When we feel rejection from people, where do we want to look? We want to look to God, because God never rejects us. If we look to other people for validation, we're not always going to find it there, because they're in their own worlds, their egocentric realities. And if we're looking for approval, if we're looking for inclusion outside of ourselves, from the world, if we're looking for approval, sometimes we'll get it and sometimes we won't. And when we do get it, maybe we're happy. When we don't get it, we feel sad. So let's not look to others for approval. Let's go inside ourselves and ask for God's approval. And when we feel that approval in our hearts, then we go forward. As Swami wrote in one of his songs, even if others abandon us, once the direction is known from our inner self, go on alone. Go on alone. Don't look back. Don't look to others. Just follow your star.
And then in the later hours, I start getting irritable and short-tempered. So please help.
Okay, so I start my work well, and then as time goes on, I get irritable and short-tempered. And so we go back to where we started this evening, that when we start out with a full charge, and just like the telephone, the charge, we use the energy, and if we don't replenish it, then the energy goes down, and we're prey to irritability, to negativity, to depression. All of these are signs that our energy is flagging. So in that moment, you say, oh, my energy reserve is just hitting the bottom. Let me replenish it again and come back up. Never assume that the energy we start the day with is going to last us for the whole day. One of the students in our meditation teacher training course was giving a presentation about energy on exactly on this subject, and she used this image. I hope I can do her justice in this image. She actually brought this with her, and it was a jar full of cookies. And she said, when we start our day, this jar is full of cookies. And as the day goes on, we eat the energy cookies. Okay? And we keep eating the energy cookies until we get to the point where there's no more energy cookies in the jar. And so what we want to do is that when we eat an energy cookie, we want to put one back in the cookie jar. Or we could say the energy bank account. Okay? So when our energy cookie jar or bank account has had too many withdrawals, it's time to make deposits. And so that's the message of this evening, that we need to nourish and deposit energy constantly, and keep ourselves up at a high level. We know that energy is infinite. We know that we are made in that image, unlimited energy and power and joy and love. We just need to keep ourselves open, dynamic, giving, and replenishing our energy sources. So try this out tomorrow and see if during the day you can keep your energy at a high level and what the result of that is. And if you find that you have good results tomorrow, then do it the next day and the next day. And then you will learn from your own experience the joy of living a high energy life. May God bless us all.